Welcome to the Displaced DieHards podcast, recorded live at 2420 Studios in Owensboro, Kentucky. Check us out, as always, at www.displaceddiehards.com. Download the podcast also on iTunes, and check us out on Twitter at DieHards Podcast. Yippee-ki-yay.
Displaced DieHards.
Displaced DieHards.
I am a Displaced DieHard.
I'm a Displaced DieHard.
We are Displaced DieHards.
Welcome to episode number 8 of the Displaced DieHards NFL podcast. We are coming to you from the 2420 Studios in Owensboro, Kentucky. I'm your host, playing the part of the African Dream Hakeem, Stephen A. Turner, and playing the part of my tag team partner from Cobb County, Georgia, the big boss man, Mr. Brandon Ward.
Serving hard times.
Our fearless leader today, playing the part of the Doctor of Style Slick, because he has all kinds of style, Mr. Ill Bill Hardesty.
The job, so bro.
Also this week, we have special thanks going out to our TV editor, old Raj, Mr. Roger Turner. This week, we're going to dive into everything from Week 1, preview and predict the matchups from Week 2. We'll be telling you some key fantasy players to sit and start, highlight the waiver wire pickups for Week 2, and I'm going to be eating a huge, helping plate of crow. But before we get to that, Mr. Ward, how are things down in Cobb County, Georgia?
Well, I don't know about Cobb County, Georgia, but in my NFL team's land, it's looking great. Chip Kelly era started out great. It was on fire at the beginning. And in the second half, they went into kind of retreat mode, and they knew that the Redskins couldn't score to keep up to win the game, so they kind of went into prevent defense at the beginning of the second half, which kind of sucked to sit there and watch the lead dwindle away. But whenever we got to see the full effect of Chip Kelly's offense moving, it was fun to watch.
Yeah, he's a Week 1 stud. I mean, he almost replaced Peyton Manning as the Week 1 hero at this point. I mean, the offense was dynamic, to say the least.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting it to be as good as it was. I wasn't expecting Lane Johnson to be lined up at wide receiver at some points. But we'll get into that here in a second. We're going to go ahead and give our results. We made predictions last week. The record ended up not too bad. I ended up at 10-6 on my predictions. Steve Turner ended up at 9-7, and the casual fan checking in at 0-1 on his predictions.
Yeah.
So casual fan, the only one under 500 on that one.
Don't feel bad, though, because we both missed that game as well.
Yeah, we both missed on that game. We had the same pick as the casual fan.
I thought the Bengals would definitely take out the Bears, and they're way more agile, as the casual fan informed us.
Probably anyone who listens to this podcast has been negatively influenced on the Bears by our hatred for the Bears. So
yeah,
that's probably what happened there.
We'll turn it around.
But anyways, we're going to go ahead and get into results from Week 1. Bring in our Philly correspondent, Wes P.
How's it going, guys?
What up, Wes? I know you loved watching that Eagles game last night. You was texting me throughout the game, telling me you was ready to talk some Eagles football.
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't wait for the podcast now.
Yeah, I had to hit you up during the game and make sure you were watching. I didn't know if you were recording it or you're working or whatever, but man, it was fun to watch for me. And like I said, I was telling Ward, I was yelling at the TV like the Vikings were playing. I was behind the Eagles 100%.
Well, I mean, Twitter was blowing up from non-Eagle fans saying, "Oh, wow, this team's fun to watch. This is amazing," And I mean, that's good to see. That's awesome to see, actually. It makes you feel good that your team's being talked about even by non-Eagle fans, The
last few years has just been ridicule ever since the infamous Vince Young Dream Team statement. I mean, they actually get some Twitter pro Eagles talk was great.
Right. Yeah, the offense was awesome. I mean, McCoy looked ridiculous. I mean, he always does, but I mean, in that offense, look out.
Oh, I mean, his first game with Chip Kelly, he got his second highest career rushing total. I mean, it just seems like the best is yet to come.
Yeah, I think by halftime he was already the leading scorer leading rusher from the entire week.
Leading rusher in the league, yeah.
So yeah, I mean,
surpassed Terrell Pryor.
You had to see that coming, though. You had to know that McCoy was going to be getting the ball in that offense.
I mean, he basically proved what us Eagles fans have been saying for years about fat asses. He didn't run the ball well. He didn't use LaShawn McCoy like he should in the offense. He brought him out in passes. And, I mean, he used him well in the pass game, but, I mean, Chip showed that he's a legit running back you can give the ball to 25 times and expect 150 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about the difference between Reed and Kelly, Kelly ran the ball almost, 15 times, more times than he passed it.
Yeah, and that also helps keep Michael Vick healthy.
When has Reed ever done that?
Yeah, that
ever.
Never happens. That didn't even happen when McNabb was injured.
I think one of the most impressive things, though, that I didn't see coming from was the way the defense played in the first half. I thought the defense looked great. I mean, I know the RG3 was a little rusty on some throws and whatnot, but the Eagles' defense kept the pressure on the entire first. I know they gave up a little bit in the second half, but I think that was more of a scheme kind of change than it was a mentality kind of change. When you're up that many points, you kind of go into safe mode.
Chip took his foot off the gas, so it gave more opportunities for the Redskins to get their offense on the field, and then our defense on the field. So it kind of our defense kind of wore down a little bit. Our defense, we're not a strong defensive team anyway.
We basically had the Chip Kelly effect working against us in the second half because our defense faced a bunch of rapid plays because all we were playing was back and soft and letting the Redskins get into a good momentum, and our defense never got off the field and got tired.
Well, hopefully Chip learned his lesson and to not take his foot off the accelerator.
Yeah, let's not take your foot off the gas in the third quarter.
They also were on the offense was also on the field almost the whole first half. I mean, the Redskins were barely on the field. I mean, they went 3 and out a couple times, which is credit to the Eagles D, but they also had some turnovers as well.
Right.
The 7 points that the Redskins had at halftime actually came from their defense. So I mean, barely seen any offense at all from the Redskins. And what you did, you did, if you were a Redskins fan, you didn't like what you seen from RG3. As soon as he seen any kind of pressure, any chance that he was going to get hit, he was getting rid of it off of his back foot and making bad throws. And
it came
turnovers.
From a blown call.
His velocity wasn't there. His velocity on his throws weren't there. When he would step into the throw, it was like he was not confident in his knee enough to stand in and fire. He was wheeling the passes over there. He wasn't firing them in there like you used to RG3.
No, he wasn't stepping into any throws at all.
And then I mean, I don't really think that that's rust from not playing the preseason. I just think that's more of just him working his way back from injury. That's right. Yeah. It's going to take a while for that.
Last year, whenever that would have happened, instead of throwing a lob pass like he did last night, you would have seen him take off and get some positive yardage in the run game. But he's making a conscious effort not to do that. Right. You can tell whenever he's out there on the field.
Well, credit to RG3. He looked better, way better in the second half. I mean, he got into a rhythm. He started hitting his receivers in stride, started, hitting them, in the chest, in the numbers, when in the first half, I mean, he was all over the place.
I think some of that, though, too, was the Eagles' intensity on D. The Eagles came out very intense on D, and in the second half they had a large lead and kind of relaxed a little bit.
RG3's wide receivers was getting 5-yard cushions in the second half, so, I mean, it's easy to look like you're on target whenever you're just trying to play back and not give up any big plays.
Yeah, we started playing my most hated defense in the league, zone. Yeah. I hate zone defense, period.
Yeah,
especially that early, it makes
you have
no
to get
sense.
a lot of pressure on the quarterback to be able to play zone effectively. If you play zone and you don't get pressure on the quarterback, you're going to get eaten alive, especially by any kind of quarterback that can read a defense. And RG3 is top probably 10, 12 quarterback in the league, so he's gonna eat on that.
I was telling Ward during the game, I was texting him. I said the way this team is playing right now, the defensive wise. They're not afraid to hit people. That's the difference. I mean, from last year to the year before, we've had teams that miss tackles, scared of contact, scared to hit people, scared to take out a player, just afraid. And we got players that aren't afraid to hit people now. We got Chung, who just loves to hit people. We got Kerry Williams.
Kendricks was out there being a beast, as you texted me, saying beast mode.
Beast mode.
But, I mean, everybody's been talking about the offense and what Chip Kelly's offense did. I was most impressed with our defense whenever they were actually out there playing in the first half. Kerry Williams brought his toughness mentality to the team is what I think. We've been lacking that since Brian Dawkins left the team. Now we got somebody out there to go out there and hit you in the mouth. It's easy for the rest of the guys to follow.
And he's a champion. He's played with great players. He's played with Hall of Fame players.
Just won a Super Bowl last year.
I said that from the beginning. I mean, the preseason, if the defense shows up, the Eagles are as good as anybody. I mean, on paper, their offense, as talented as anybody in the league. I mean, McCoy and Vic and Deshaun Jackson's going to thrive under Chip Kelly.
The defense is a question. When you talk
Yeah.
about the Eagles,
and I thought there was some protection issues as well. I thought Vic struggled at times picking up the blitz. If you're going to pick things out to work on, they look pretty damn good, but if you're going to pick a few things out to work on, I thought he had failed to identify blitzes at times.
Missed Riley Cooper one time wide open in the end zone. That was a big
play.
It's
week one. I mean, it's week one.
If you want to pick at it, but that's about all the negative.
That is my concern with Vic moving forward is his ability to pick up to recognize the blitz when it's coming or
That's
whether
the
it's
key.
not. He's
Especially
had
in that offense.
He's had that
Quick.
problem throughout his whole career.
When you're running plays, when you're running that many plays that fast, you got to identify the defense at the line of scrimmage.
The main thing I loved about Vic, and even though his health is always an issue, did you see him out there blocking on runs for Shady McCoy and opening up? I mean, you gotta love that's a Brett Favre mentality. I mean, it's not smart for his overall health, but I mean, you gotta love the heart on that guy.
Chip talked about after the game how he's gonna ask him not to do that, but he said
it's just him.
Vic's gonna do it regardless.
It's like asking him to slide feet first.
Yeah, that's not going to happen either.
Never.
One of the number one things I took from the game, though, is just the Eagles look like they're actually having fun playing football. I mean,
it looked like they liked their coach for a change.
I mean, when Deshaun Jackson scored that first touchdown, he runs over and he knocks Chip Kelly's visor off, and they're all hugging him, and you just did not see that last year. I mean, you could just tell. And Reed's a good coach. Don't get me wrong. He's a really good. He's going to do good things for Kansas City, but his time was up in Philly, and he lost the locker room. That's just all there is to it.
Yeah, well, I think
it's time for a change.
I think the players still respected him as a person, but they're losing him as a coach.
Right, they're losing their faith.
There's a line between your person as a coach. There's a line there.
Right.
I think his word had stopped motivating him at that point. I don't think they really trusted him at that. He always after bad games, he would come in there and take like fake blame for things, and you could tell that he wasn't sincere about it, and so could the players. I mean, he wouldn't take responsibility seriously like he should have, and the players I think revolted against him on that.
Well, I mean, Chip's a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, that's always going to happen when you get a new coach.
Well, yeah, but I mean, Reed is
it's a completely different change from the kind of coach that you had too, though. I mean, Reed was by the book, not celebrate, not smile, kind of guy. And Chip Kelly is
Chip
a fiery
Kelly's out there
guy.
with some crazy signs on the sideline.
Yeah, I mean,
did you see the picture with the Phillies fanatic and Rocky? You had to appreciate that. Two of your favorite things.
But I was talking about Andy Reid's press conferences is redundant. It's the same every time.
Yep.
I mean, they're unwatchable.
It was so robotic that you knew it was insincere.
Even after wins, you didn't want to see an Andy Reid press conference because you ain't going to get nothing from it.
No.
And, I mean, after losses, it was even worse.
As bad as a Peyton Manning press conference, just a robot out there talking.
It was dull.
The Eagles are definitely a team to watch going forward. I know that the nation has definitely taken notice of the offense, and if the defense can play the way they are and Vic can pick up protection, I mean, sky's the limit in the NFC.
I know I could talk about the Eagles all day, but we only got a 90-minute show here, so we're going to keep it moving. Going to Houston and San Diego. I mean, a game that, as we said many times, only Beans really cares about the Chargers of anybody we know.
Yeah, I was fully prepared to eat a lot of crow today because I talked a lot of trash about a lot of teams, and a lot of teams look better than the team of my team. And like the Raiders and the Jets both have, the Raiders didn't get a win, but I mean they came closer than my team did to getting a win. So
they didn't look like they were 1-15.
But yeah, right. And I mean in the Chargers, for the first 3 quarters of this game, I was like, Phillip Rivers is carrying this team. I mean, he's willing them to, and then he just turned into Phillip Rivers in the fourth quarter.
Went into late career mode, Phillip Rivers, and became a bad thing for his team. And
I felt bad for Chargers fans because the wheels just completely. They had to be excited as you go into that game expecting to take a loss, expecting to have a horrible season, and you come out and you're like, well, maybe it's going to work out.
Would have been a big win for him.
And then the wheels just completely come off, and
that's what I was going to say. It's worse to lose like that than almost get.
I'd almost rather get destroyed and just know your team's going to be bad.
By the third quarter, I know Beans is already talking shit to everybody about how the Chargers have already won this game, and then it gets turned around on them. I mean, Foster, as you said, he didn't look like himself.
No.
He had a few. They didn't give him a lot of carries either. But I mean, he got a touchdown. Don't let that fool you on his fantasy report.
I thought Ben Tate looked better in the game.
Ben Tate was a better running back.
He had just as good as stats. He just didn't have the touchdown. And I'll tell you who did look good in the game is Andre Johnson. They had no answer for him in the second half. He was just getting open at will.
No, he was complete domination, showing. I mean, he's coming off his best career year last year, and it looks like he's going to try to, even get a better year this year.
I think that's probably a little bit of effects of DeAndre Hopkins.
I thought he looked good as
some
well.
Other weapons.
Yeah, Schaub made the throws when he needed to. I mean, you just got to look back to that key penalty that the Chargers got there when the Texans are kicking that field goal late in the game, and it was gonna make it a 10-point game, and then they jump off sides and give them the first down. And the Texans score just a couple plays later, and that changed the entire face of the game because it was going to get to the point where the Texans would need an onside kick just to get back to where they could have a chance to win the game. And And that put them within one score, and that just completely changed the entire mentality. That's just San Diego Chargers football. I mean, that's just how it works.
Like Brian Dawkins always talks about Big Mo, the momentum of a game is one of the key things you can't determine on paper. And once Big Mo starts to shift, you got a whole different ball game.
Yeah, I wasn't pulling for anybody in the game, but when I was watching that, I always try to pull for the underdog, and I was just like, man, I know that I talked a lot of trash about the Chargers, but I'm pulling for them. But
yeah, you usually go for the underdog just to see that upset. I mean, you also said that Houston you didn't think was going to be as good, so I mean that could have helped your season prediction a little.
I still don't. I thought they looked lackluster at times. The defense really stepped up towards the end there. Cushing and J.J. Watt both stepped up.
That must be some kind of. I've noticed that in a lot of teams. It must be some kind of effect of not being able to tackle as much in practice. The way that defenses haven't been able to step up as early.
I agree.
I basically watched this game as a scout pretty much because the Eagles play the Chargers next week. So I was seeing how the Eagles would match up or whatever, how, our defense is going to go against what receivers those guys have and how we're going to match up.
Floyd and Vincent, Eddie Royal had a big game. I mean, I was pretty down on their wide receivers. I mean, they still have a little bit of weapons, but Phillip Rivers just can't.
I think the reason you've seen the Chargers doing well early was because Ryan Matthews looked like he was going to come in and take over the game. Then once that kind of fizzled out a little bit, they started to slow down.
Yeah, Rivers, like I say, they put it all on him, and they're up 21-7, and they're still slinging it around left and right because they just couldn't get anything going on the ground.
He's not a guy you can do that with. But moving on to a quarterback you can, going to move on to Denver versus Baltimore. Peyton Manning, 7 touchdowns. Of course, I was playing him in one of my fantasy leagues. It always happens. Always get put up the most points.
60 points.
Yeah, that was ridiculous.
If you remember correctly, he started the game very slow as well. I mean, you talk about slow starts. I mean, it took him a quarter and a half before he even threw a touchdown. So he pretty much threw 7 touchdowns in 2.5 quarters.
Which is even more remarkable.
Oh, it's absolutely ridiculous.
It's almost like that thing we were talking about with the San Diego fans thinking they were going to win. I was sitting there thinking Peyton Manning was going to finish with like 8 points because it's raining in Baltimore, and then he ends up finishing with 60.
Yeah, but I mean, he's got weapons. At his disposal. You name it, the guy is just every position. The guy's got a weapon. It's
Wes Welker seems custom made for Peyton Manning.
If their defense can just maintain, the Broncos are a scary team, man. They are really good.
We all picked them to go to the Super Bowl for a reason.
That's right.
That's right. It definitely looked like they're the clear favorites in the AFC. I mean, they took the previous Super Bowl champion and just dominated him. Joe Flacco looks like he's paying the price for making all that money. He doesn't have a lot of weapons.
He don't have a whole lot of weapons, man.
His previous favorite weapon, Anquan Bowden, was making Colin Kaepernick look like an all-pro quarterback.
I can't believe they traded him for a 6th.
Yeah.
What? Why?
Yeah,
I can't believe we only
that guy's probably
7.
not even on the roster right now. They probably cut that guy in training camp that they got for Anquan Bowden.
It's just insane.
It's
I don't understand.
It's stupid how much NFL teams value draft picks.
I agree with that 100%. I mean, he lost his tight ends, and Dallas Clark dropping balls. He looked like an old Dallas Clark. Torrey Smith.
He must have been in shock because
but
he must have been. Dallas Clark must have been in shock because Peyton Manning wasn't his quarterback, and he looked up and realized Joe Flacco was, and he just couldn't hold on to the balls.
He couldn't
after
catch
that.
it. Yeah, that's right.
Which I can't blame him either.
No, Flacco is Flacco. The guy, he's up and down. He is what he is, and he's getting paid because quarterbacks are at a premium. And I'd take Joe Flacco in a New York second, but Joe Flacco is getting overpaid for maybe on paper, but I would pay him that much to play for the Vikings any day of the week.
Yeah, it's kind of like a Tony Romo story. He's making a lot of money, but who else are you going to give that to?
I know. You look at the history of the quarterback position in Baltimore, like guys like Trent Dilfer and Vinny Testaverde and guys like Bowler and those guys. I mean, all of a sudden you get a guy like Flacco and you want to pay him because he's so much better than them, but he's not. He's far from being an elite quarterback.
It's so hard to find an elite quarterback. And moving on to a team has been looking literally since Jim Kelly retired. Moving on to Buffalo and the Patriots. Buffalo always plays the Patriots close, it seems like. And then for the first 3 quarters, you're thinking maybe Buffalo's going to get it done. And then the Patriots always come back and rip the Buffalo fans' hearts out.
I feel for Bills fans, man.
We all
the
three were watching that
Patriots
game
do it
together.
to them every single every single year, man.
We never even doubted it. That's the thing. We
Yeah.
never doubted it.
Yeah.
We were like, oh,
There's
the
no
Patriots
doubt.
are down. There's only a minute 40 to go, and the Patriots are down. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, how many times
It
did I
doesn't
say
matter.
during the game? I was like, dude, the Patriots are going to rip
Yeah.
the Bills fans'
That's what,
hearts out once again.
Gimp came over and he's a New England Patriots fan, saying how worried he was in the third quarter. I had to call him out on it. I was like, why? There's
Yeah.
no reason for you to be worried. You've seen
How
this
many
film,
times have you been in the driver's
You've seen
seat
this film
there?
17 times. Why were you possibly worried? I was like, everybody that was here watching football today literally called that in the second quarter that it would happen just like it did. There was no reason for you to worry.
That being said, the Patriots have some issues. I mean, they don't have any weapons.
Yeah, they have nobody.
And the running game, they have to get the running game off the ground. I thought that Belichick would try to focus more on the running game. It still looks like that he's still trying to play the same type of offense, and it's just not. There's just not the weapons there. You can't rely on rookies.
Especially with the news today of the running back that did the best for him,
Vereen,
Shane Vereen,
yeah.
being put on
Going down.
IR. That's going to hurt him.
That's brutal. Yeah, that is going to hurt him. And Amendola is not going to play Thursday night. I mean, it begins already with Amendola.
We've warned you about him all offseason that he's injury prone. And I mean, he came up lame 3 or 4 times in that game. You just can't count on him. But I have heard Gronk is slated hopefully for game
Week 3, it looks like possibly week 3. Yeah, that'll be a big help. But they're going to need more than Gronk, I think. And then how healthy is Gronk going to be? I mean, the guy has had 35 surgeries on his elbow.
73
at this
surgeries later. I don't know if he's the same player.
Yeah.
You'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, and my heart goes out to Buffalo, though. I thought E.J. Manuel, he played better than a lot of people thought he would when he was drafted where he was drafted. So people were raining crap on the Bills for drafting him where he was. But the fact of the matter is, he's better than Kevin Kolb. He's better than what they had last year.
He can walk on a wet floor, Matt.
I mean, and I thought one thing I took away from the game, I thought Robert Woods from USC, rookie wide receiver for Buffalo, he looked good in the preseason, and he looked good in this game as well.
I think C.J. Spiller not being able to establish himself as a legitimate running back.
That.
Yeah, I know you drafted him as with your first pick in your league.
You're giving Fred Jackson 14 carries. Why are you doing it?
We thought that era was over.
We just discussed this, that C.J. Spiller was going to be the go-to guy. That you can't split carries with the back like it'd be like giving Toby Gerhart 14 carries and giving Adrian Peterson 14 carries.
Spiller was supposed to run till he puked, according to Maroney in the preseason.
Give the ball to Spiller and let him run.
Either Maroney was lying or C.J. Spiller has really horrible conditioning.
Yeah, I'm just mad about it because he's my fantasy running back. Fred Jackson's obviously a solid option, but I mean, if you got a guy like Spiller, you got to feed him. You just got to keep feeding him because if Adrian Peterson, if you cut his carries in half, you never know when he's going to bust that big one. You've got to have him in there. You got to just keep feeding the monster there. I think that's a huge blow for the Bills.
Touching on film for Bills fans, I walked in the house. My dad's a Bills fan, and he looked at me and was just like, why do they do this to me every week? Every week they do this to me.
I know
we all
exactly
feel
what
that
he's talking
pain.
about. Yeah, I know exactly what he's talking about.
At least all the Vikings and Eagles fan dudes.
Yeah.
He feels my pain too, trust me.
Well, here's somebody we hope to never feel the pain who's feeling of. Aaron Hernandez. He's going to kick it with his Connecticut Correctional. He's a breakdown of New England Patriots versus Buffalo Bills.
Yo, what's cracking? It's the Angel Dust All-Pro, Aaron Hernandez, checking in from the payphone at Connecticut Correctional for the Displaced DieHard podcast. I'm going to review my New England Patriots taking out them horrid Buffalo Bills. Now, the Pats look like they may have possibly found my old stash of weed and PCP in the first half of the game, but that's okay. We did what we do, and we killed it. We won 23-21 versus Buffalo. Danny Amendola, just as I predicted, made everybody forget about Wes Welker. I'm still going to kill you, boy. And just like I said, my New England Patriots are 1-0. Just wait till your boy here gets back out on the field for them. Now, moving on, this Thursday, the Patriots play the Jets on Thursday Night Football. The Jets? Come on now. My cell block is less dysfunctional than the Jets. I mean, if I had to play for the Jets, I would have had to have an Angel Dust drip at halftime to avoid killing the entire organization by the end of the game. I'm going to go ahead and predict 27-13, my New England Patriots with another win, 2-0. That's what I'm talking about. We killing it, y'all. Murdering the league. Now, I got a domino game to attend, and the stakes are a blunt, a pack of coffee, and some Bubbalicious. You know I love that shit. So I'm going to jump off here, sending it back to Stephen Ward at the Displaced DieHard podcast studio. Aye.
Thank you, Aaron, for your report on the Patriots. Man, he still hates Wes Welker. Wes Welker's got to hope that Aaron Hernandez never gets out.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I don't think Welker cares. I mean, he's tearing shit up in Denver, so I expect him to not care too much about Hernandez, who's going to be locked up from 50 to life.
Another team that tore it up was the Chicago Bears. I mean, we've talked about them badly on the podcast, as I mentioned earlier, but it was Cincy, Chicago, and Chicago went there and got the win. Me, you, and the casual fan all predicted Cincy to get the win, and Chicago came in there and took it.
Yeah, I just didn't know what to expect from Trestman's offense. If obviously if Cutler can adapt to that offense, I mean, sky's the limit. Chicago, like I said, Chicago has all the talent. It's just a matter of putting it together. They have some times where you have to scratch your head, but I thought that they used Forte, like he should be used. Like they haven't used him since his rookie year, and they played solid enough D to squeak out the win at home. It was exactly what we thought it was. It was going to be a close game that went right down to the wire. And
that's one thing I heard of the Bears fans say about Lovie Smith is they didn't like how he used the offense. I mean, like you were saying, Matt Forte is finally looking like he's being used like he should be.
Yeah, if you want to flip the coin and you want to look for what could be positive. I mean, I'm not down on the Bears. Obviously, I have to be down on them because I'm a Vikings fan. But if you want to get technical, I mean, the Bears are just. It's the NFC. The games are so so close either way. If you make a few plays here or there, you're going to win a game.
I mean, any in football.
Right.
I mean, just look at the Jets and Bucs game.
That's right.
The outcome of that game literally came down to somebody pushing somebody out of bounds at the end of the game. You can't predict that.
Right. So I mean, if you're a Bears fan, you have to think, okay, Trestman's coming in. He's an offensive guy. If he can fix the offense and use Forte and Alshon Jeffrey can step in and be a compliment to Brandon Marshall, then and the defense cannot drop off if they can keep playing Lovie Smith, right? Then obviously the Bears were 10-6 last year. Let's not forget that the Bears won 10 games. That's nothing to laugh at.
And they didn't have a lot of roster turnover either from that 10-6
not at all.
team, especially.
And they have a better offensive line, which was their major Achilles heel. So I'm not down on the Bears at all. I said it in the preview show. Obviously, I picked the Vikings. I'm a Vikings fan. I want the Vikings to be that team, but it could very easily be the Bears or the Lions. I still feel like Green Bay is going to regress. So I still think the division's there for the taking for Chicago or Detroit.
I think this division is one of the most wide open in football. Anybody could win it at this point. I mean, like you said, I don't see Green Bay being dominant like they were last year. All it takes is one key injury, especially to Aaron Rodgers with the lackluster offensive line like we've speculated that they're going to have all season. And your boy Eddie Lacy didn't exactly set the world on fire.
No, we'll get to that. We'll definitely get to that. But Cincinnati, they were right there. The game was right there for the taking. Like I said, the games are so close. You cannot make dumb mistakes in the NFL. And Cincinnati had them stopped on third down, and they were going to get the ball back, going to get the ball to their weapons, and then some dumbass defensive lineman's committing a penalty 15 yards away from the ball.
Doesn't
irrelevant.
Affect the play
it's
at all.
Absolutely irrelevant. He's taking some guy to the ground, and it costs his team the game.
Yeah, if you get a penalty for hitting somebody because you're trying too hard or something like that, I'll forgive that. But whenever those penalties are happening where they're 15 yards off the ball, you can't forgive those.
You saw how I freaked out on Troy Guion, and that wasn't even close to being as bad as detrimental to his team as that penalty.
Yeah, Guion had the target on his back all day.
I mean,
he earned it.
Oh God, don't get me started on that. We'll get to that
too.
Get to that
later.
But Cincinnati, they have. I'm not going to jump off the ship because of this game. Soldier Field is a tough place to play.
AJ Green continues to look like a beast.
I saw a tweet that said by the end of the year, people may be calling AJ Green the number one receiver. I'll make a bold statement and tell you right now, AJ Green is the number one receiver in the NFL.
I think especially because, like we've said, they've got two tight ends down there that can catch, and Sanu, who's going to open up the field for him. Calvin doesn't have all that, even though he's got Reggie Bush a little bit this year.
I think Reggie Bush. We'll get to that as well, but he's going to take the pressure off of him a little bit. Absolutely.
He'll take away from Calvin's stats.
But, yeah, I mean, if you're a Bears fan, I'm actually made a bet with the Bears fan this week, so it's going to be interesting how things go. We'll get to the picks later on, but we'll see. I mean, like I said, the Bears are right there. They won 10 games last year. If their offense can improve, I mean, 11, 12 wins is the wheelhouse for them.
Yeah, moving on to a team that after the performance, some people had them at 9-7, 10-6 area. Miami Dolphins. they took on the Cleveland Browns, Drunk Bernie's favorite team, favorite of the Displaced DieHard podcast.
Love Drunk Bernie. Love him. And his rant this week should be even better considering that Brandon Whedon just looked awful in the first quarter of this
Brandon
game.
Whedon looked like he was high on the weed and
Ah,
throwing
man,
3 early interceptions.
You know, I said I'm going to eat a big plate of crow, and this is my first helping. Gosh, dang, Brandon Whedon, you're killing me, son. 3 picks in the first quarter. These 2 teams I had right on the cusp of the AFC playoffs. I'm trying to pick a team, out of nowhere. So I kind of jumped on the Browns because I thought Whedon and Norv Turner could, join together and do something special there. And then you lose in the dog pound right off the bat week 1 to the team that I thought you'd be challenging with. So the Dolphins, they're right there. They're right there where they need to be.
Like we said last week, though, Whedon wasn't going to have his number 1 guy, Josh Gordon.
No.
So, maybe once he gets back, he'll look a little bit more like the Whedon of preseason.
Yeah, and a little foreshadowing on the fantasy segment. Cameron is a definite
Jordan
is a
Cameron,
definite pickup.
tight end for the Browns. Yeah, I actually drafted him.
I'm sure a lot of people is drafting
in your
him.
league and started him. I love the results I got there.
Oh yeah, the guy is he's number 1 target.
One of the fantasy guys that got drafted high that people who drafted aren't going to like was Mike Wallace in that game.
No,
he's already pissed off at the team and the coordinator and the coach and everybody. Seen that one coming.
Nothing upsets me more than when your team goes out, especially in a game when they need to win on the road in a place like Cleveland, and then you got a diva wide receiver running his mouth about his own team in the locker room. There's no place for that. Jerome Simpson, he caught 8 passes for like 160 yards. The guy hadn't had a day like that in forever, and he said, he would rather catch 1 ball for 5 yards and win, and that's the way it should be. Mike Wallace, shut up.
Obviously,
just shut up.
Obviously, Mike Wallace is one of those guys that would rather look good and lose.
Absolutely,
than look bad
that
and win.
shows that shows
white man
how
can't
much
jump reference.
He's already proved himself to be all about the money, and if you don't have the heart, it doesn't matter. Because speaking of heart, Brian Hartline will end up being the guy who takes his job there, and he ends up being the workhorse for that
Poor
offense.
man's Wes Welker right there. Brian Hartline looks like
Obviously, him and Tannehill have the rapport.
looks like that he's the one that has the chemistry with Tannehill. Like I was going to say in the run game, Lamar Miller. If you drafted him early, I'm sorry because you probably lost your fantasy game.
I was going to get to that. The Miami running game is a question, and I don't know. That's a concern of theirs for sure. I don't know how that's going to go in the future, but if you're a Dolphins fan, you have to be excited for Tannehill. He's doing enough to, you look at the guys that drafted the year before him, like Ponder and Locker and Gabbert.
Those are the guys you need to compare him to, not Luck, RG3, and Russell Wilson. Those guys have came along once in a lifetime.
Right, and Tannehill is playing better than all 3 of those guys. So
I've watched a lot of Ponder, and I'd take Tannehill over Ponder in a second.
I can't get started on that either right now, but right now, we're going to throw it to the most entertaining part of the show. I can assure you that. It'll be Drunk Bernie.
He's been drinking.
Thank you, Barnaby. This is Bernie Kosar for the Displaced DieHards podcast, telling you to kiss my ass. I don't need you people getting all up in my business because my pick was wrong. Who asked you to listen to me anyway? They call me Drunk Bernie, by God. You need to take responsibility for your actions and accept the fact that I lured you into picking the Brownies. And oh boy, did you love it too. So we got beat by the Dolphins. They didn't look as much like an off-balance washing machine as they should have. We had a game plan that looked like we kept pushing X and asking Madden. I never said we were going to have a perfect season. We lost one. We probably should have won. Freaking Whedon. Brandon. I put my neck out there. I hype you up. I get you the recognition you deserve. And you go out there and toss 3 drunk turtles in less than half an hour? No more of that. No more, please. Thank you. Our O-line is going to get the job done better in Baltimore, and we're going to keep you on your feet. We're going to give the ball to Richardson at least twice as much as we did against Miami. At least if we want to win, we are. Kind of Chud thought it would be a good idea to put an entire game on Whedon anyway. Just because he's as old as Peyton Manning doesn't mean he has the experience or the decision-making ability as him. I think Baltimore are a bunch of assholes. I don't like them, and we're going to beat them. You write that shit down because it's a fact. Browns 27, Baltimore 17. Back to you, Spencer and Benjamin. This is Bernie Kosar, and I've been drinking.
All right, that's Drunk Bernie talking about drunk things.
Yeah, I mean, that guy's his last segment influenced me to pick the Browns, and that didn't work out well. I should have known better.
It's amazing how influential inebriated people are. Peer pressure really gets to you.
I should have known better than to make somebody influence my pick who was carrying around a bottle of Goldschlager and just drinking it.
Wears goggles sometimes just for no reason, just because he's drunk.
Bernie vision.
That's right.
Going to move on now to our super producer, Ill Bill's team. Tennessee Titans got that big win against Pittsburgh.
We got a W, a nice one on the road.
Yeah.
Anytime we can beat Pittsburgh, I'm happy about it.
Yeah, I'll take a win against the Steelers any day.
Especially on the road.
Yeah, on the road, and I highlighted they were going to be at LP Field, which is a huge blunder on my part. Thanks, FoxSports.com, for
Yep, it's still wrong. Go
it's still
look.
wrong. You can check it out if you want. But, yeah, I said it from the start. I thought it was a winnable game for the Titans, and man, the Steelers' offense.
They came out and did it. I was
show up.
worried in the opening seconds. We've already got a safety scored on us, but sometimes that kind of stuff.
Now-
There were 3 safeties.
It was the week of the safeties.
I know.
And then
That
the
was
Eagles got
strange.
one on
You go
Monday,
weeks
too.
very
and weeks
strange.
and weeks without safeties in the NFL, and you have 3 on opening day.
And thanks to Blaine Gabbert, the Jaguars only scored a safety.
So did Pittsburgh.
Yeah, well, for a long time. And
Well,
they,
yeah.
yeah,
The
it
best-
stayed 2 for a long time.
The best quarterback in Jacksonville is apparently the defense.
Yeah.
But anyway, on to the Titans. We won. I didn't think we looked that impressive offensively. Jake Locker's still a big question
Still
mark.
look like Jake Locker.
Still a big question
unfortunately.
mark. We couldn't get anything going on the ground.
Yeah, it's still the
you-
Pittsburgh D at home, which always plays well, though. So
Nate Washington looked like he was definitely Jake Locker's favorite receiver.
He's
No
always
doubt.
an underdog. Everybody always is like, oh, well, you've got Nate Washington out there, but he's always the most targeted receiver, the guy who's got the catches, the guy who makes those impressive catches over people's heads. And
He's the
stuff.
guy the quarterback looks at third downs.
yeah, I mean,
Trust him.
they said it all preseason long. Nate Washington was his favorite target, and it showed. And I thought, Chris Johnson didn't exactly set the world on fire, but he
Held his own. He
was
looked a lot better
was
than he has.
serviceable. I don't understand why the Titans refuse to spread the offense out and get Chris Johnson in there, get him some room to run. He's
Yeah.
not a power back.
I
He's not
agree.
going to be able to charge through 10 guys standing up at the line counting his own.
And that's the way they're going to play him as long as
They're gonna
Walker can't prove
either
himself.
that. Can I get a screen down in Tennessee, please? Can I get a screen pass? Can Locker at least be looking
don't
for
get me
Chris Johnson
started.
out of the backfield?
Don't get me
like,
started on this conversation.
all you have to do is get the ball in his hands, and something can
I've
happen.
been begging for putting a running back in space for years.
Yeah, if you've got a running back whose key element is speed, get him in space. Don't
Yes.
try to run him up the line and through
sure.
the middle. That's not going to work out for him.
I'm sure Undead Al's rolling his grave seeing that use of speed just completely wasted.
Exactly. Undead Al knows all about some speed, but
The one player in NFL history, apparently, who should have been drafted by the Raiders to be used correctly was Chris Johnson.
that's correct.
Wow.
That is very correct. But yeah, I mean, you flip the ball over to the Steelers. I mean, Roethlisberger struggled mightily. I mean, he doesn't have any weapons at all. I mean, Dwyer's got to be sitting on his couch at this point, just laughing because their running game looked terrible Sunday.
I've actually heard they're bringing Dwyer back now after I tried to warn him. I tried to warn you, Mike. Mike, I tried to tell you all preseason he was your best running back. And you cut him, and now you're going to come crawling
If I
back
was
to
Dwyer,
him.
I'd tell him to stick it up their ass.
Yeah, I would
'cause
too. I'd wait until
I'd go
another injury
somewhere
goes
else.
somewhere else. Yeah, fuck you.
absolutely. Yeah, that's ridiculous. Isaac Redmond, get out of here with that shit. You got to be kidding
Yeah,
me, Isaac Redmond.
Well, I mean, and I think what's bringing him back is because Jonathan Dwyer, they had him replaced by Stevens Howling, and then Stevens Howling got hurt. So I mean, they've got nobody. And
Felix
they're,
Jones.
They're running. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Their
Yeah.
running back they're hinging
Ugh.
on is now going to be Felix
Ugh.
Jones.
Ugh. God.
Yeah, that's a
Wasn't
sinking,
it-
that's
Come
a
on,
sinking
Pittsburgh.
ship.
I mean, you're supposed to be the team that makes the good personnel moves. What is going on there?
Wasn't Felix Jones nobody about 3 seasons ago?
He's
still nobody.
He's been nobody
I-
since he left Arkansas.
I'm surprised I even remember his name at this point.
He's now more famous for being in the same backfield as Peyton Hillis.
We
than
talked
he
about
is in
Mike
NFL.
Wallace. We talked about Mike Wallace in Miami, but it's obvious that offense is going to miss him. They
Pittsburgh
don't
could have used
someone-
Mike Wallace.
they don't-
Even the diva version that showed up down in Miami, they would have
Oh,
something
yeah.
something
Yeah,
to get
no-
something going.
no
I mean,
question.
I don't thi-
Roethlisberger's definitely showing his age. I
don't
think
think
he's
this
on
to-
the outs.
I don't think this Todd Haley experiment is working out
No,
with Ben Roethlisberger.
no.
He's never trusted him since
Nope.
day one, and Pittsburgh's going to struggle as long as Todd Haley is the
I
offensive
agree,
coordinator and Ben
100%.
Roethlisberger is your quarterback.
That's a great point. Todd Haley and Roethlisberger don't see eye to eye, and Roethlisberger he tries to do too much sometimes. He'll stand in the pocket for 20 minutes trying to find somebody, and he takes a lot of hits. And like we said in the preview, he takes hits like that and he goes down, Pittsburgh's season goes down because he's all they got.
Like we said, look at their running game. You lose Big Ben, I mean, you're definitely in the bottom of that division. Like we said, it's going to be a tough division even if you got Big Ben. I didn't have them winning the division anyways with Big Ben. Lose Big Ben
in last place.
OV.
I had them in last place, and I still believe they're going to finish. Like, let's not try to pull too much out of all these games from week one. Let's remember it's just week one and stuff. But I mean, Pittsburgh has a long way to go, and they look like a team that could finish last.
Speaking of a game we shouldn't take too much from because I don't think they'll ever they might not win another game all season. Move on to Tampa Bay versus the Jets.
Here comes the freaking buffet line of crow coming into the room. They're bringing it in right now.
Just get it out of the way early, man. Go ahead and eat all the pie that you need
to. I refuse to apologize to Jets fans right now. If you're listening, all Jets fans, kiss my ass. I still don't want to hear about your team for 2.5 hours on Sports Center.
Especially one particular one on ESPN2 every morning at 5 a.m. Central Standard Time.
But the fact of the matter is I was correct. If you remember correctly, the ESPN, Fox Sports, NFL Network, whatever they are, they want to talk about how Sanchez going down, handicaps this team, and what happens? Geno Smith goes out week one, and he gets you a win you didn't expect. And he played pretty good football.
Yeah, if Sanchez was in there, I would say that Darrelle Revis would have been the guy catching the touchdowns. And unfortunately, he plays for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers now.
Can we go ahead and name Rex Ryan Coach of the Year? Let's give him Coach of Week 1 at least for playing Sanchez in the fourth quarter. That way it gives a quarterback that's halfway competent a chance to win a game for you.
Maybe that was his key scheme
all along. Get him injured. That's the only way we can get him the hell out of here.
How the hell can I get Sanchez the hell out of New York? I'm going to put him behind my 4-string offensive line, then Geno can play. They'll have no reason for Sanchez to want to come in.
And, I mean, Geno, he didn't turn the ball over. That's key. That's
especially
key.
when you're trying to play with, like, the Jet-style football.
Yes.
They try to play good defense and run the ball.
That's
if you
the
don't
key.
turn the football over, you win.
And he made a few plays. He made a few plays here and there, especially late, right there to get him in field goal range. He took an awesome 15-yard penalty right there at the end. But
yeah, let's not really say the Jets won this because the Bucs kind of lost it. Man. Got a penalty at the very end, very last play of the game, other than the field goal.
And we're looking like I'm looking kind of ridiculous on the Jets for saying they win one game and they've already won the one. But we also look kind of brilliant on the other side of the ball with Tampa Bay because we've been highlighting how Josh Freeman. His time is drawing to a close in Tampa Bay, and it's getting closer and closer.
Yeah, it's the Mike Glennon era is soon to arrive in Tampa Bay, in my opinion. I mean, Doug Martin's there. Vincent Jackson's a legit number one wide receiver.
Yeah, he's still putting up huge numbers.
Mike Williams is a good second wide receiver.
There's no excuse in Tampa Bay.
It's obvious that your problem there is the quarterback if you're not winning.
Excuse.
That offense looked broken.
Yeah, it did. And I mean, you lose to the Jets week one, and as much dismay as that team has been in, just complete disarray. To lose a game like that, it's not starting the season off on the right foot.
Doug Martin also didn't really show up for that one either.
No.
I mean, another fantasy bust that was
Believe
picked
me,
high.
I have him on another fantasy team of mine. I had a horrible overall fantasy.
Apparently, if Team Turner drafted you, apparently you didn't do well if you're a running back.
No, I've pretty much been in fantasy championships left and right for like the past 2 or 3 years. I guess this is my year to pay it back because. I mean, my teams were just atrocious week one. I'm appalled at how horribly I drafted these teams.
Well, moving on to an atrocious game now. Seattle versus Carolina was hard to watch.
Yeah, it was exactly what I said it would be. It was a team coming from the West Coast to the East Coast playing a 12 o'clock game, and Seattle struggled to get through it. And it was exactly what I thought it was, except Cam Newton just didn't make the plays he needed to make to get him over the hump, as usual.
Yeah, Carolina had every chance to win that game, and they just didn't take it. Cam Newton in big spots, whenever it's big spots,
disappears.
He just disappears.
No.
He's
a stat master.
Whenever they're down 24 points in the third quarter, he starts putting up awesome stats.
Yeah, if you need a fantasy quarterback, start him. If you need a quarterback that's going to win you games in the NFL,
he actually didn't do shit in fantasy because I have him and he scored like 14 points.
Yeah, the Seattle defense is nothing to laugh at. I mean, I'm not going to get too crazy down on Cam. I mean, but
no, they got the best DBs in the league, unquestionably.
I highlighted in the preview show that the Carolina lost a lot of close games last year, and for them, if they're going to be where I predict them to be at, around 8-8, 9-7, that area, they are going to have to win a couple of these like 5 or 3-point games. They're going to have to figure out a way to score late to win some of these games.
And as we've touched on, I don't buy Cam Newton can do that.
I don't either.
That's why I didn't have them in the playoffs. Their defense, like you said, Luke Kuechly leading that defense into something.
Defense is mean. Their defense is absolutely mean.
Respectable. And then and now it comes down to Cam. I mean, D'Angelo Williams.
He did get a buckload of the carries. I'll give him that. They did try that, but I mean, Seattle's D, you can't really stack it up too much because Seattle's D is one of the better Ds in the entire NFL.
Yeah, I mean, you got Steve Smith as your pretty much primary weapon, and they're going to just take him out of the game and make other people beat you, and they don't have those other people right now.
No. Moving on to a game that I thought was going to be about 60 points higher score than it was, Atlanta and New Orleans. And, man, another team might have to eat crow on right off the bat. New Orleans, I said Sean Payton couldn't coach defense, and they came right out and played pretty good D against Atlanta.
Yeah, but unless Sean Payton was studying defense 24 hours a day,
he didn't have no effect on it. Don't get me wrong.
He had no effect on that.
But you have to give New Orleans defense some credit. I mean, I wasn't giving them any credit, and they came out a mash unit.
Do you want to give their defense credit or their actual defense who's actually sitting on the IR?
Yeah.
Half of their defense is on the IR. And
these
backup guys came in, and I think they're going to take these guys that are on IR's job because they've actually stopped somebody.
You make a great point. Maybe the better players were on the bench all along because, and the thing about it is people are trying to tag Matt Ryan as elite and say he's going to be the MVP of the league. Well, Matt Ryan's got to show up every week.
Yeah,
this guy disappears sometimes. I mean, I understand when he's on, but he's got weapons. He's got Rowdy White. He's got
it's almost
Julio
like Cam
Jones.
Newton.
He's got Tony Gonzalez. He's got Steven Jackson. He's got all these weapons. And then sometimes Matt Ryan just doesn't perform the way he should.
Especially against teams that has defenses, you expect him to just light up.
Oh, yeah. He should have lit this team up.
New Orleans gave up 7,000 yards last year.
Yeah, there's no excuse. I mean, I thought that Matt Ryan looked. What I saw of him, he looked lackluster at times.
He looked like Matt Ryan, inconsistent.
He did. He's a very inconsistent quarterback, and a lot of people are trying to crown him, and I'm just not sold on the guy, quite frankly. But a guy I am sold on the other side of the ball, Drew Brees. I mean, sky's the limit. You got Drew Brees. I don't care what you have around him. It's starting to look like the guy, is obviously you have to mention him in the best quarterback of the league conversation.
Oh, yeah, easily. I mean, no matter what weapons he has, he can make anybody a legit receiver. Just look at the guys that leave the Saints, and then they come crawling back to the Saints 2 years later because they're very, very mediocre without Drew Brees.
Yeah, the thing to keep an eye on with the Saints, obviously, is going to be their defense going forward. If their defense can perform like it did, then I mean, they can be an elite team.
Yeah, I mean, if their defense can hold people to 27 points, I think Drew Brees can put up more than 27 points every week, regardless of what defense he's playing.
And they're holding an offense like Atlanta to under 27 points, which is pretty impressive.
And since we're talking about Atlanta, we got to hear from
him. I know he's going to be upset.
Very upset Falcons fan who's actually got bloodlines to the Falcons, as we've touched on many times. Going to go ahead and kick it to the count.
It's me, the Count. The count does not feel much like counting this week, for the Falcons have let me down. Now you may think, as a Falcons fan, the count would be used to being let down, but it still hurts every time. Perhaps this week, in week number 2, the count can count wins instead of losses. If not, the count may take a walk in the sun or find a cross to impale himself on. Let's hope for a win for my Falcons. We'll see you next.
Back now from a very, very sad count. So sad that he even refused to count.
Yeah, that's a shame. I mean, I hope Sesame Street keeps him in good spirits. So maybe Atlanta can get a win this week, and we can actually get him back, counting again.
Let's move it on and pick up the pace here and brighten it up with fat-ass Andy Reid getting his first win as the Kansas City coach against the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Well, who didn't see this coming? I mean, Blaine Gabbert, the all-star quarterback that he is, just didn't show up.
Yeah, we used to have a league where we played OBFL, Owensboro Backyard Football, and I think we could beat the Jags at this point.
Yeah, they scored 2.
There may have been more fans at some of our games than there was in Jacksonville. Did you see the stadium? Jesus.
Yeah, that's a pathetic. I mean, you
can't blame them though.
You're talking about no, that's true. But you're talking about moving a team like the Vikings or St. Louis Rams out to L.A. Well, I think the time is now to move Jacksonville.
Jacksonville is telling you by the lack of attendance.
They don't care. Move them. No one. They're going to have like 13 people that care.
People barely go and see the Miami Heat in Florida. Are they going to really go watch the Jags?
I feel bad for the Jacksonville fans because that game was blacked out in their area. So the
they
only way you want to see the game,
they haven't seen a Jags game in 10 years.
Yeah, you want to see highlights? That's all you get, man, because you're not going to get the game
Mark
on TV.
Brunell was at quarterback the last time the Jags were on local TV.
Tony Baselli's out there lacing it up for
him. Don't get me started on this Blaine Gabbert situation. If you listen to the podcast, you've heard Blaine Gabbert sucks, and he's going to suck. He's done, okay? When Chad Henne gets in, they're going to be competitive. Just like I said, they're going to compete with Oakland this week.
Go ahead and Google Blaine Gabbert and see what it tells you about Blaine Gabbert. As I go ahead and tell you that his offense went ahead and scored 2 points, and he got demoted to second quarterback.
Yep. Google confirmed it. Blaine Gabbert sucks. He is done. And it looks like Chad Henne will be the starter from now on. Like I said, should have happened from the beginning. You give the guy a chance. Okay, we gave him a chance. What happens? You score 2 points. Your offense scores 0. So that's what happens when you have Blaine Gabbert at quarterback. And now maybe Cecil Shorts will be able to perform to the level that I said he would perform at with a quarterback that's competent in Chad Henne.
That was the thing you took most personally is that with Blaine Gabbert out there, your fantasy prediction, Cecil Shorts.
You're killing me, Blaine.
You're
making me look bad because it's not Cecil Short's fault that you can't throw a 5-yard out, a simple high school pattern.
It's Blaine Gabbert's fault.
I mean, your thumb. Maybe it's your thumb. Maybe it's just that you're terrible. Like you were.
Has he had a broken thumb his entire career?
And maybe he has. Was
that an undisclosed injury?
Maybe it's a thumb issue. Maybe it's just that Blaine Gabbert couldn't play in the Arena League at this point. But I'm telling you, the fact of the matter is, this week they play Oakland. We'll highlight it later. But I'm telling you, watch the game, and you'll see an offense that's more dynamic with Chad Henne in there.
Oh, yeah, you'll see one that's more organic. But you got to talk about Andy Reid influence in Kansas City.
Yeah, and that's the thing to look for. I mean, Kansas City is a team that a lot of people expected to make the jump. Like we've highlighted it a million times. The talent is there. If Andy Reid can put it together and just get Alex Smith to do what he did on Sunday, he managed the game well. Of course, it's the Jags. They're only going to score 2 points. So, I mean, if you kick a field goal, you beat them.
6 Pro Bowlers on that roster. I mean, if he can figure out a way to use that talent, which he didn't do well in his last few years in Philly, but if he can figure out a way to use Jamal Charles and Dwayne Bowe to the top of their performance levels, I mean, you've got the talent there in Kansas City to be a winner.
Yeah, we highlighted the fact that in Philly, they needed a change, and the players love playing for Chip Kelly. But if you're at Kansas City and you got Andy Reid, a proven winner, and you've had guys like Romeo Cornell and guys like Haley there, and you get a guy like Andy Reid, then maybe they're excited to play football. So, like I said, I think it's a good change for both teams. I think the Eagles will move forward with Chip Kelly, and they'll succeed. And I think that the Chiefs will be much more successful with Reid. I know you guys aren't huge Reid fans, but
I guess it was an admirable parting where both sides kind of ended up in better places. But I still hate his fat ass.
Yeah. I expect Kansas City to be in the race in the AFC. I think they can win 9 games. They're right there in the middle. And like I say, if you're going to be Kansas City, you've got to win games like against Jacksonville, and they had pretty much no trouble doing that. Thanks, Blaine Gabbert.
Talking about a team that won't be in the race, going to go ahead and move it on to Undead Al's favorite team, the Oakland Raiders, taking on the Indianapolis Colts. What do you take from that game?
This might be one of my last helpings of Crow coming in right now. Terrell Pryor looked apart. I mean, you got to give him a little bit of credit. He got the Raiders in position to win this game.
Like I was saying a few episodes ago, I think him and Darren McFadden, if you could use the pistol, figure out a way to use the pistol with him, he's a guy that really needs it. I mean, we say RG3 needs it to be a legit quarterback. Terrell Pryor legit needs a pistol.
Yeah, I think it would help McFadden.
It
would help McFadden and Reese as well.
Like we were saying with Chris Johnson, get him in space. That's the best way to use McFadden.
Yeah, Terrell Pryor, I was thoroughly impressed. I mean, like I said, I feel bad for Raiders fans. They're some of the best fans in football. You have to be a Raiders fan. I mean, the stuff they've been through. I know the Raiders were successful in like the 70s and the early 80s, and even when Gruden was there. But you take those away, and man, they've been through some excruciating seasons, and they have some of the most diehard fans in football. So, I'm happy to see them perform well. I think that Terrell Pryor is a step in the right direction for him.
Speaking of diehards, we're going to go ahead and bring in Undead Al. If anybody die hard, it's got to be an undead zombie.
Just keep him back there.
Yeah, please. Somebody make sure you got that chain linked around his neck because the previous 2 times he's been in studio, he's tried to kill people.
He's got me. Oh man.
Undead Al, focus over here. Focus.
Ask him the question.
Focus, Undead Al.
Ask him the question so we can get him the hell out of here.
You debuted your possible new franchise quarterback, Terrell Pryor. What did you think of his performance? Speed. Not
That's
surprising. That's right on. That's par for the course right there.
That's pretty much staying true to his wheelhouse.
You got anything to ask Undead Al so we can get him the hell out of here?
Well, I mean, I predicted you at 2 wins this year, Undead Al. I know you said 15-1, but now you came close to beating a playoff team in the Indianapolis Colts. Does this performance change your outlook? Are you more optimistic about the season? What do you think?
Just win, baby.
Just win, baby. That's Al Davis.
It's a hell of a motivator right there.
Yeah, he is.
Now you.
Okay.
Oh God! Somebody, come on! Somebody get him out of there! Somebody get him out! Somebody get him out
of here! Get him out of here! Security.
Catch that camera.
Security.
Well, thank God we had Odinson here to get Undead Al the hell out of the studio.
Why do we have to have him in studio? We have everybody else call in, and we got the most dangerous man on the planet, Undead Al, in here trying to eat our brains and everything else.
Got a zombie in here trying to eat people, so we had to get Odinson in here. Had to get the Norse warrior Odinson in here to get him out of the studio. But since he's here, we're going to go ahead and get his thoughts about the Vikings.
Tis I, Sir R. Odinson. Truly Sunday was a day of great woes, felt throughout all the 9 realms. All were gathered upon the great hall, and with the aid of Handel's infinite vision, we broke the veil to Midgard to bear witness to thy own Vikings of Minnesota, versus the Lions of Detroit. Things began with a glimmer of hope as the Lions' holder of kicks botched the snap, leading to the Norsemen gaining control of the ball. Upon the next play, the NFL's player of most value, Sir Adrian of Peterson, exploded through the lines of Detroit, running 78 yards to the zone of end. The halls of Valhalla themselves were shaking in celebration. But this celebration was short-lived indeed. The Lions managed to take control of this game. If not for their lack of discipline, I fear that this game would not have been so close. Thou Calvin of Johnson was held to a minimum. The arrival of the newest back of running in Detroit, Sir Reggie of Bush, had proven most powerful ally indeed. Though thou had taken quite a beating, Sir Bush amassed 191 yards of all-purpose, while adding a receiving touchdown as well. Truly thou Vikings' interior line was spread further than that of the easiest bar wenches of the dirtiest taverns in Jotunheim, most of which could be blamed upon the missing Kevin of Williams, who was sitting upon the sidelines due to an injury to his knee, received upon the dirty play in thy season of pre. Most disappointing of all was the performance of Sir Christian of Ponda. Truly one wonders if he lacks the heart of a true warrior. The interceptions Sir Ponda threw were 3, one in particular that may have very well cost us the game, when thou could have simply not thrown the ball away in range of our kicker, Sir Blair of Walsh. Thou Ponda did have glimmers of light through the gloom, making several sharp passes to thy own drinking partner, Sir Jerome of Simpson. It simply was not enough. The Lions' line of defense showed much promise, holding Sir Peterson to just 15 additional yards beside that of his first scoring run. Thou scoring 3 touchdowns, Sir Peterson was a non-factor indeed. Where the Lions lacked discipline, truly the Warriors of the North lacked the offense to win this game, being defeated 34-24. Truly thou has much smiting to do to rid the heart of rage that could bring Ragnarok down upon us all. So Handel, open thy Bifrost!
Thank you, Odinson, for your report on the Vikings. I know the Vikings are near and dear to your heart. Not a good Sunday for my co-host here, Stephen Turner, a.k.a. Akeem the Dream.
Yeah, we kind of saw it coming. I mean, I said it was going to be a scary game, and it was exactly how we broke it down. I mean, I know that I would pick the Vikings to win. I mean, Vikings, I can't pick against them week 1. Are you kidding me? But
had made that homer pick for the first week. I mean, everybody's guilty of it.
It's tough to win. It's going to be tough place to go win in Detroit. The fact of the matter is, it was a winnable game. Detroit made tons and tons of mistakes in the first half. The Vikings should have been well ahead at halftime. It should have been 17-6 at least at halftime. And then you got Ponder throwing a pick right before half, and the Lions turning that into from a 17-6 game at half. You're going in well ahead with all the momentum. It turns into a 14-13 game, and the Lions are all of a sudden saying, well, we've gave up about 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, we should be way down here, and we got a shot
and
still.
We're only 1 point behind. So The Vikings did not play Viking football. They didn't play football that won them games down the stretch. They committed dumb penalties that kept drives alive on third down. They turned the ball over left and right. They did not block for Adrian Peterson.
To me, Minnesota didn't have a game plan coming in.
It
looked like their game plan was to hand it to AP every
Yeah.
first down, run up the middle, and hope he runs for 70-yard touchdown.
They
Other than
didn't.
that,
They had,
we're struggling.
They had no offensive rhythm, none at all. And I will say there was some things I took out of the game that I liked. I loved the cornerback play. I thought the guy was down on Josh Robinson. I thought he had a great game. I thought Xavier Rhodes looked good. I thought Cook did a great job on Calvin. But the fact of the matter is, I mean,
Jerome Simpson, about
Jerome
moving
Simpson,
it over to the offense, looked really great.
Yeah, he did. I mean, Ponder wasn't exactly putting the ball on top of him, but he was making some great plays on the ball.
Made a Willie Mays catch on
sure
one
did.
of those over the shoulders.
That's encouraging to see, as a fan, see a guy step up like that.
He must have some kind of talent that we haven't seen yet.
Oh, he
because
does.
teams just keep him around. I mean, there's no way you're keeping a headache around like him and putting up with suspensions and things like that if he can't produce on the field.
Yeah, he definitely has talent. I mean, I saw that. I was excited as hell when we signed him last year, coming out of Cincinnati. I thought he was a dynamic wide receiver in Cincinnati, and he started the season pretty well after he got off his suspension. It was just he had some weird back injury that slowed him down. But yeah, that's a highlight I can pull from the game for sure. Is Jerome Simpson. There's not a whole lot of highlights from the Vikings.
Definitely wasn't Christian Ponder's play.
No, I thought Harrison Smith. If you want to talk about a guy that stood out for the Vikings, Harrison Smith looked the part. I mean, he's legit. It's nice to have a really good safety like Harrison Smith.
I think the biggest thing that hurt the Vikings was Kevin Williams not there. I mean,
the whole middle of the field was. I mean, we highlighted it earlier. LaTroy Guion. Oh God, he played awful in this
Vikings
game.
defense was getting slashed. I
Awful.
mean, there was one point when I was referenced. It was a 4th and 1, and I was saying 2 or 3 years ago, Steven Turner's
daring him, begging him,
would be begging Jim
screaming
Schwartz,
at the
try
TV.
that, try it 4th and 1,
And
bring
I
it
knew.
on. And then this year, now he wants none of it. He's like, no, come on, punt it.
Please kick
punt
it. Yeah,
punt it.
kick it because the interior line is just not what it was. The Williams wall's no longer there. I like Fred Evans at the nose, but he needs a guy like Kevin Williams or a healthy Sharif Floyd who didn't play a whole lot of snaps.
Yeah,
I think
played very sparingly.
Yeah,
we could barely
I mean,
find him out there.
You can't really say that he should have played more. The Vikings, the way they work the rookies in, they're not really the type to throw him in, especially coming off of a knee injury where he hasn't played in a few weeks or practiced for that matter. But yeah, I'm not going to jump off the Viking ship just yet.
I think Patterson, another rookie, showed that he's got some dynamic speed in the kick return game.
Yeah, and he caught that little screen Percy Harvin style
Yeah,
and almost took it
for
to the end zone. They just gotta find their identity a little bit more in the passing game. I don't think they need to stray off of what I said they are. They're a team that needs to run the ball well, and they need to be able to convert key third downs, and Ponder did not do that this week. They were horrible on third downs. They could not stay on the field. They couldn't sustain any momentum throughout the entire game. And the Detroit Lions looked exactly like I said they were going to look. They looked sloppy. They committed dumb penalties.
Speaking of finding their identity, I think Reggie Bush is going to help Detroit find their identity that they need to be successful.
I mean,
he looked, as like we said, he looked like he's going to
help
perfectly on that offense.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to get too high or too low on Bush. Obviously, he had a great game, but we tend to make guys like that look a little better than I'm going to wait till they play a team with a little bit better linebackers to be completely sold on him. No doubt that he's going to help their team. I'm not trying to say. I'm not trying to say that, but but I don't expect him to do what he did this week every week because.
As long as he stays healthy, I think he will, because the defenses he's facing they're going to be targeting on Calvin Johnson.
I don't know that he could put up
wide receivers
100 and 100 every week. Is what I'm trying to say. 100 and 100 that's.
Yeah, I would expect the decline in the rushing more than the passing.
Yes, I agree. I do expect him to catch a lot of balls. There's no doubt about that. The fact of the matter is, Detroit just doesn't have a second wide receiver, and their tight end Pettigrew showed in this game you can't trust him. So
Broyles was out for that game, who was supposed to be a second wide receiver.
Help.
It was glaring they didn't have a second wide receiver, and Pettigrew was struggling. He looked like he had a lot of rust on him.
And I have to question the adjustments from the defensive coordinator, Williams, from the Vikings, not adjusting to the screen. That's all they threw all game, and we never adjusted to it. It comes to the point where you say you never let the best player on the other team beat you. I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to let Chris Cook go for Calvin one-on-one. And
like I said,
eventually you're going to have to make the change.
Like I said, a few years ago, Cook held him to he had 2 receptions, which happened to be touchdowns, but they were for like 6 yards at a time. Other than that, he had shut Calvin Johnson down the whole game. if Reggie Bush is killing you like they were, you got to at least turn some attention to him.
Right. And there's a couple things. One thing that bugged me a lot in the post game was Jared Allen. His comment just said that he didn't see Reggie Bush having that kind of impact on the game. I mean, how could you not? I mean,
if he would have listened to the Displaced DieHard podcast, he would have known.
You have to know.
We told him about it almost verbatim how it happened.
I mean, it said they didn't account for him in ways that they thought that they used him. And
have you not seen Reggie Bush since USC?
It's very puzzling, and
he's been the same player.
It's kind of scary. Yeah, absolutely.
What he does,
that's
he
right.
catches passes out of the backfield,
and that is concerning a little bit to me. But I'm not going to jump off the ship just yet. Like I said, I don't think we played Minnesota Viking football. We got in a lot of second. I mean, Ponder didn't play well, but they didn't put him in positions to succeed either. They were in tons of. This play calling was atrocious.
First down, AP up the middle every time.
Yeah.
It seemed like every first down, it was just AP up the middle.
Yeah, I mean they hit on it one time, and they hit on it the very first play of the game, and they just kept going to the well, and that's fine. You have to feed AP. That's the makeup of the team, but you can't go 2nd and 13, 2nd and 14, 2nd and 11. Those
especially
things,
with a quarterback. I mean,
right.
If you got Kaepernick on your team, that's another issue. He can create some time back there and get guys enough time to get 11 yards. But I mean, you got Ponder out there who we've already said struggles when he gets under pressure. You don't want to put him under any more pressure than he's already going to face.
Things that he was good at, things that Christian Ponder was good at in the 4-game winning streak was converting third downs that were manageable, and the defense played good football. The defense missed a lot of tackles, and Christian Ponder was in a lot of 2nd and longs, and Adrian Peterson couldn't get anything going. I don't know if Jerome Felton had a little bit to do with that. The offensive line just hasn't looked like it doesn't make any sense. While they would take a step back, they're the same unit. You think they'd be more cohesive with another year under their belt, but I mean, I don't know at this point.
You got a question if Sullivan was at full strength after Ndamukong Suh got that $100,000 fine levied down on him for that low, dirty hit.
I can't comment on Suh.
I was hoping that you might as well comment. You got a podcast.
Suh is what he is.
Let's bring it.
Suh is what he is at this point. He's a dirty player. I mean, he's a dirty player. He's trying to take out a guy's knee. We already have one guy sitting on the sidelines because some bitch ass offensive lineman takes a cheap shot at his knee, so why not try to take out, our offensive lineman? It's absolutely ridiculous. Kevin Williams isn't in there because of the shot on his knee. That was a huge blow to our team, and now you got Suh out there taking a shot at Sullivan 20 yards away from the ball, and he tries to say it's not dirty. You got to be kidding me.
Yeah, that had no effect on the play. Sullivan is not going to catch a defensive back who's got the ball. He's not going to run him down from 20 yards back.
And forget the fact that it was dirty on Suh's part on our team. He cost his team a touchdown. That's the fact of the matter. You want to get right down to the brass tacks. He was walking into the end zone when Suh decides to take a blatant shot at Sullivan's knee.
That's exact proof of what we were pointing out last week about an undisciplined team because of Jim
the Lions,
Schwartz.
Don't get carried away with the Lions here. The Lions obviously show that they're still very undisciplined. They still take the personality of their head coach who obviously is just a loose cannon. And Suh is a team captain. He's a a leader. You're going to make a guy like that a leader of your team?
Yeah, that's like the Patriots making Aaron Hernandez their team captain. I mean, you're looking for some high morale there. I mean, and Ndamukong Suh's the number one fined guy. I mean, he got $100,000.
Yeah, and that's not the first time.
And it wasn't because that was so brutal. It was because he's been fined so many previous times for stupid plays that he's made.
I mean, it is what it is. He took a cheap shot, and it was a straight-up cheap shot. Anybody that says any differently isn't paying any attention.
And I mean, speaking on the undisciplined part, Calvin Johnson he caught 2 touchdowns, but actually couldn't catch 2 touchdowns.
No, that's what I'm saying. That's why I'm trying to put AJ Green in ahead of him because Calvin just isn't finding the end zone. I mean,
he had opportunities. I mean,
you're not going to find many people that's going to take a shot at Calvin. But let me take a minute. Yeah, I mean, let's take a minute and take a shot at Calvin here. He's had opportunities to get to the end zone.
He had 2 there. I mean, he had 2 in that game, and he muffed up both of them. And one was a really questionable call, which I don't know. It's 50-50 on if he made a football move or not or whatever.
Yeah,
that was
it's that weird ass
it was the Calvin Johnson rule.
Did he control the ball through the ground? Crap, and it's a catch anywhere else, but in the NFL, it's not a catch. I mean, if you don't control it through the ground, you got to make a football. Look up football move in the dictionary. I don't think anybody knows what a football move is.
There may be one man who knows though, and we're gonna interview him right now. Jerome Bogger, the ladies' man ref, checking in here on the Displaced DieHards podcast.
How y'all doing?
What up, ladies, man? We had a few questionable calls from this first week of NFL.
I'm sure you do. Go ahead and ask.
Steve, what do you got for the ladies' man ref?
All right, Mr. Ladies Man Ref, let me ask you what you think about the Calvin Johnson catch. Did he make a football move when he made the touchdown, or was it not a catch?
Well, professionally, I know about football moves, but whenever it comes to the ladies, it's always a good idea to dive in head first.
That's the insight you only get here at Displaced DieHards. Wow. Moving on now, there's been a lot of talk of how quick the Eagles' offense has been moving. Do you think the refs are going to be able to keep up with the pace that Chip Kelly's offense is bringing?
If you can move so fast that they throw a penalty flag, you're doing something right. You know what I'm saying?
I know exactly what you're saying.
Cavassier talking there.
That's right.
I think Steve's got one more question.
Yeah, I got a question for
the
you.
lady man gets out of here.
If I have just an inquiry from a straight NFL fan that watches the game, what's your favorite penalty to call live on the microphone in front of the home crowd there?
Well, whenever I reach down and touch the button on my belt, my favorite thing to call is holding, because I like to hold the ladies.
Makes sense.
And a nice cold glass of Cavassier cognac.
That makes sense, ladies, man. Right in his wheelhouse.
Right up his alley there. I mean, you can't
All
argue
right.
with that. I mean, look at the insight we bring here at Displaced DieHards.
That's a great new segment. I look forward to having the ladies, man ref in every week to discuss the questionable calls around the NFL.
Yes, you're very welcome.
Thank you for that, ladies, man.
From questionable calls, we'll go on and move to questionable GMs and Jerry Jones's Dallas Cowboys.
Before we even get started on this Dallas
Giants.
Cowboys segment, I got to tell you right now, we had correspondent Chris Riley in studio to join us. Talk about a huge win for the Dallas Cowboys.
Yep.
And where's he at?
Once again, shows his allegiance to Sons of Anarchy and leaves the podcast instead of taking his bow for his Cowboys that he loves so much. Finally got a big win. Actually, Tony Romo didn't choke and turn the ball over. But
Is this 1991 or 92? We have DVRs, Mr. Riley, in this day and age, and I would suggest that from now on when we record a podcast and you want to set in with us, you might check into using your DVR and you watch Sons of Anarchy and skip the commercials when you get home like every other normal American.
He acts like Sons of Anarchy is live sports programs or something. I bet he tapes the Cowboys games.
You know what
and
pisses me off more than
Anarchy
anything,
live.
though? What pisses me off more than anything is I got two Eagles fans here a couple weeks ago. I got Prater over here. I got Ward over here. And they're Eagles fans, and here I am going to bat for the Cowboys, and I got the Cowboys fan inching his fat ass out the door over here, and he's not trying to back me up.
Yeah, he left you hanging. I mean, you took the bullets for him with
here
that
I
Romo
am.
argument.
Here I am, and I'm like, I'm all alone. But the fact of the matter is, Romo lived up to the hype. He got the W, and here we are, week 1, 1-0, baby, on our quest for the NFC East title.
I'm pretty sure you're the only one who picked the Cowboys out of all 4 of you guys.
And even Riley picked the damn Giants. Are you kidding me?
That shows his allegiance to his team. I mean, he's showing his allegiance to his team right now by sitting at home watching Sons of Anarchy.
Oh, man, I'm telling you, that's ridiculous because that's a big win. That's the first time in 4 years they've won. I guess changing the name from Cowboy Stadium to AT&T Field that we had no idea about was a big change.
Since that bitch punked out, I'm not even going to mention that win anymore. I'm just going to move on from that game. Dallas won, yay, who cares?
Shut it down.
Yeah, the other team had like 6 turnovers in the first 4
they
minutes.
Sure did.
Glad you pulled that one out.
Kind of impacted the game a little bit, maybe.
Well, moving on to Arizona and St. Louis, the main thing I wanted to touch on here was my boy Honey Badger making that touchdown-saving knock out of the hands there on the return. I mean, save 7 points. That's the thing that guy does. He makes plays.
Yeah, absolutely. You hit on Carson Palmer, Larry Fitzgerald. They hooked up right. I mean, they're right together right off the bat. And in this game, we're both right on this game. If you want to get technical, I mean, granted, you picked the Cardinals to win, and I picked the Rams to win. But the fact of the matter is, we both said it was going to be close. It's both going to go down to the wire. You said Palmer would have a positive effect on the Cardinals, which he did. You said Honey Badger would have an effect. He did. I said that the Rams would win on a last-second field goal. They did.
Yeah, that was some pretty good predictions
right there. I think that we finally got one right. I don't have to eat any crow on this game. This was one we were right on the money on.
That was the game last week we said we weren't going to have a lot to talk about, and that's the one we got the most right.
Yeah, and it was fun to dive into that game because it was so evenly matched and everything. And I thought that you have to give a little credit to Sam Bradford. I thought he played a really good game.
Yeah, I think you're seeing Jeff Fisher maybe start to establish him a little bit.
I have a lot of faith in that guy.
Tone him down, not try to make him something he isn't.
That's right. And Jared Cook, man, right off the skip, man, he's right in there and he's performing right off the bat.
Yeah, Bill Hardesty told you about Jared Cook was a big big issue leaving the Titans,
Yeah.
and it looked like it because as soon as he got to the Rams, he looked like a beast.
I also thought Richardson performed well. He did well for me in all my fantasy leagues that I have him in.
Yeah, he's a serviceable back. I don't know if he's going to be able to sustain the load all year, but like we've said, Isaiah P gets back in a few weeks, and he's kind of the Darren Sproles change-up guy there.
That'll be a big help, I think. Keep an eye on the Rams. They're very well coached. And keep an eye on the Cardinals, too. They play good D. And like you said, Carson Palmer, I wasn't convinced. I still have to see it translate into victories. And obviously, he's going to put up far better numbers than any of those jokers they had there last year. But it's got to translate into wins. And they play good D. So if they can get some good quarterback play, I think they might need to find a little bit of a weapon in the running game. But other than that, Arizona's right there, too. Once again, it comes back to just being effective, being efficient on the field, and
not making the mistakes.
That's right. That's all it comes down to.
Teams are so close in the NFL. That's why we're down on Detroit saying don't buy in them because they make a lot of big time mistakes.
Oh yeah, very undisciplined. They're not going to be a playoff team unless they can ratchet up those, and that's their identity. That's who they are.
The Eagles of last year. Every time we were doing something well, we shot ourselves in the foot.
I agree. Let's move on to San Francisco and Green Bay real quick. We highlighted this game. I was a little off. I didn't think it would be as close as it was. It was a little closer than I would have expected, but San Francisco did get the W.
Yeah, Kaepernick came out and looked like the quarterback I expected him to all offseason, saying that he's my favorite non-Eagle in the league to watch. He just sat back there and picked that defense apart. He didn't even need to bring in his running into the game. He was just sitting back there picking that defensive backfield apart.
Yeah, Green Bay's defense is weak, but at the same time, if any time a quarterback throws for over 400 yards, I don't care who they do it on. It's impressive, and especially a quarterback that's only in like his 9th start. So you have to just tip your cap to Kaepernick.
While we're talking to Cap,
Dolphins cap to Kaepernick.
While we're talking about Kaepernick, we got to talk about your boy Matthews. Clay Matthews running in there and doing like a Brian Dawkins tackle 4 yards out of bounds, and then Joe Staley runs over there to protect his quarterback and somehow gets a penalty, even though Matthews punches him in the face twice.
Yeah,
by the way, why would you punch somebody who's wearing a face mask?
Yeah,
that's
come
brilliant.
on, Clay. Stick to your damn fathead commercials. Give me a break here, man. Don't be punching Staley in the face. And the referee's standing right there, and he doesn't eject you. And then he offsetting penalties. First of all, he slams Kaepernick's head into the ground. And
5 yards out of bounds.
Then he gets up. Yeah, absolutely. 5 yards out of bounds. Then he gets up and starts running his mouth. So Staley does what any offensive lineman in the league would do. Comes over to protect his quarterback. All he does is puts his hands on him, and Matthews starts punching him in the head. And next thing you know, then they get offsetting penalties.
A penalty on Staley for that.
And people have the audacity on the media to say, well, the Packers got screwed on that because the referees botched the call. They did botch the call technically by saying it was 3rd and 6. It should have been 4th and 2 offsetting penalties.
There's not a chance in hell Staley should have got that penalty to make that call wrong.
No, give me a break. And Matthews should have been in the locker room at that point.
He threw
you can't
two
punch
punches.
somebody. Give me a break. And it's not like the referee was far away and didn't see the punch. He was standing right there on the play, and Matthews got to stay in the game.
And then he
makes me sick.
Proceeded to make a few big plays that kept this game that
It
close.
sure did, yeah. And Matthews is a...
So if you want to talk about how Green Bay was screwed there because of that call, you can say just as well how much San Francisco was screwed because Matthews was left in the game.
And my Twitter feed blew up with people saying, why is he still in the game? It's not just me and my Green Bay bias. It's a fact. You punch somebody in the head in the NFL, whether they're wearing a helmet or whether you're the idiot that punches somebody in the head with a helmet on, Clay Matthews, you should have been ejected, and half the world agree with me on Twitter, so it's not just my Green Bay bias on that point.
Well, speaking of idiots, we're going to go ahead and round this segment out. Since we didn't hear much from the Dallas Giants game, we're going to kick it to the huge horse's ass, Jerry Jones.
This is Jerry Jones, owner/general manager of the Dallas Cowboys. And unless you've been living under the rock this past weekend, or you spent a weekend with Bernie Kosar, you're aware that the Dallas Cowboys won their first game over the New York Football Giants, and we are officially 1-0, which means my prediction of the Super Bowl is going to happen. This week has been quite an honor for me, Jerry Jones, owner/general manager of the Dallas Cowboys. Last week on the Displaced DieHards podcast, I interviewed Al Davis, a former owner of the Oakland Raiders, which was an extreme honor of mine. I also spent the weekend with the king of the NBA, LeBron James, and the biggest wrestling superstar of all time, Hulk Hollywood Hogan. You could say we had a good night out on the town, if you know what I mean. Also, yesterday, I spent some time with the king of country music, Mr. George Strait. It was announced that he's going to be playing at the AT&T Stadium where the Dallas Cowboys play. This weekend, we play the Kansas City Chiefs, and if you know anything about the Chiefs, you know they have a fat-ass coaching them in an Andy Reid. And I expect fully the Dallas Cowboys will go 2-0 and continue, I said, their path at another Super Bowl title. This is Jerry Jones, owner / general manager of the Dallas Cowboys. What a week, guys. What a week. Go Cowboys.
Thank you, Jerry Jones, you giant son of a bitch, for your
Bastard.
report.
Bastard.
I got to say, as bad as I hate Jerry Jones, at least he's hardcore enough to stick around for this podcast, unlike the Dallas
know.
Cowboys fan who's home nursing his vagina and watching Sons of Anarchy.
That's right. Let's go ahead and get to our predictions, which, of course, you know, I'm a brilliant prognosticator. Let's go ahead and get up to Baltimore, where the Cleveland Browns are coming to town. I'm not high on the weed anymore. I'm sober these days, and I'm going to go ahead and roll with Joe Flacco and the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, I'm not letting drunk Bernie influence me anymore. I'm in rehab from the weed, and I'm picking Baltimore to win as well.
It's not going to take too long to get up to my game at Soldier Field. It's Vikings suck balls there. They never win at Soldier Field. I'm going to take the Vikings to win that game. Please win the game.
I'm going to go with the Vikings, too. I think their back's going to be against the wall, and I think Chicago's going to go in there thinking that they're kings of the world, and the Vikings going to still win.
I'd be shocked if the Vikings won that game. But anyway, we're going to head down to Reliance Stadium, home of the Houston Texans, where the Tennessee Titans are coming to town. Give me Matt Schaub and Andre Johnson. I'll take the Texans.
Yeah, I mean, Arian Foster's only going to get better from this point if he can actually stay healthy, and I'm picking Houston as well.
All right, we're going to Buffalo, Orchard Park, New York. They're going to be hosting the Carolina Panthers. I'm going to try to stay on the Panthers bandwagon. Cam, don't let me down. I'm taking the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, I'm picking the Carolina defense to make E.J. Manuel's life a living hell this week and Carolina to win.
Let's go down to somewhere where Matt Ryan might be a little more comfortable than the Superdome. We're going to take him down to the Georgia Dome in Atlanta, and they're taking on my St. Louis Rams, but I am going to roll with the Counts. Atlanta Falcons.
Yep, with Atlanta coming off that loss, I'm predicting the Falcons at home to win as well.
All right, and something the game you might have a little bit of interest in, the home opener for the Philadelphia Eagles. They're going to host Phillip Rivers' interception-throwing ass San Diego Chargers. I'll take Chip Kelly's Eagles to go 2-0 in the season.
Yep, give me Chip Kelly to start out 2-0 as well, especially with San Diego coming across country.
And here's a special public service announcement. Upset number 1 of the week at Lambeau Field. The Washington Redskins are coming to town. RG3's got his swag back after losing to the Eagles in Week 1. I'm taking the Washington Redskins on the road to upset the Green Bay Packers and go 0-2.
I'm not sold on Bob Griffin at all, so I'm taking Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers to win.
It's my purple glasses. I was picking that game with my purple glasses on. Let's go somewhere close to us, actually. The Indianapolis Colts will host the Miami Dolphins and Jason Dill's brand new Miami Dolphins uniforms that are hideous, and I'm taking the upset Miami Dolphins win.
I'm going with Indy at home here. Sorry, Jason.
That's too bad. But anyway, let's go down to your Carson Palmer-led Arizona Cardinals. Are going to host the undisciplined ass and cheating ass Sioux Detroit-led Lions.
Yeah, just because of those issues that we talked about. I love Arizona and their defense, so I'm picking them to win.
I actually took Detroit. Rain crap on them all podcast, and I'm going to take Detroit to win that game. But another upset. I got another one for you. How about this? Tampa Bay Buccaneers at home after laying a huge egg against my New York Jets. They're going to be hosting Drew Brees and the New Orleans Saints. You never see it coming. I'm taking Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
I think you're using your Hurricane Katrina glasses there and letting your hatred for the Saints come into play.
There's always that game, though.
I'm taking the Saints at Tampa Bay.
But there's always that game where you're watching the game and you're watching the games and you're like, how in the hell is that team winning? I had to pick out a game, and I'm thinking Tampa Bay just played a horrible game.
You're
New
picking
Orleans,
Josh Freeman to actually show up this week.
Yeah, he's
Good
going to
Freeman.
He's going to study his tape this week. He's going to be his Aaron Rodgers type self, and he's going to show up, and the Bucs are going to win. Hopefully. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and move up to New York, home of the Giants, not the Jets. And they're going to be hosting Eli's brother Peyton, who threw for 7 touchdowns. I'm going to take him to throw for 7 more, 14 in 2 weeks. I'm taking the Denver Broncos big.
Yeah, did you see how good the Giants made Tony Romo look? I'm definitely taking Peyton Manning in
this
this
is going to be ugly.
Denver.
He might throw for 8 or 9. If he gets started in the first quarter, he might throw for 9 touchdowns in
I'm
this
glad
game.
I'm not playing him again.
I'm going to start. If you got a wide receiver in Denver, start him. Let's go up to Oakland, out to Oakland, West Coast. They're going to host the Chad Henne-led Jacksonville Jaguars. Beware. Jacksonville wins.
I'm calling this the Blackout Bowl.
I'm calling it the Pete Prisco Bowl.
Because nobody will be watching this game because it's nobody in the stadium.
Nobody gives a
Nobody
shit.
will buy tickets for it, and then it will be blacked out. So nobody will actually know how this game turns out. It's all going to be hearsay, but I'm going with Oakland and Undead Al.
You'll know when I'm tweeting Pete Prisco about Chad Henne being 1-0 and Blaine Gabbert being 0-1. But until then, let's go up to Seattle, where they're going to host the San Francisco 49ers in a marquee matchup week 2. I mean, this is a matchup that everybody's waiting to see. I'm gonna roll with the home team because of the 12th man. It's a very difficult place to play. I'm going to roll with my Russell Wilson-led Seahawks to take the W.
Most teams get 3 points at home. I give Seattle at least 14.
Yeah.
I picked
just
Seattle
right in
as
that
well.
wheelhouse. You took Seattle. Wow, okay. You're going over Kaepernick, and it's interesting. We're going to see here. Let's see. We got the Cincinnati Bengals hosting a very disappointing Week 1 led Pittsburgh Steelers. Ben Roethlisberger. I don't have a lot of faith in him versus that very tough Cincinnati Bengals defense. Give me Andy Dalton, Big Red, and A.J. Green to roll over the Steelers.
Yeah, both of these teams were disappointed in Week 1. I'm going with the Bengals too.
All right, and rounding out the actually we missed the New England game. Let's go ahead and pick it. It's Thursday night. Let's go ahead and take a winner. The Jets are going to be going up to New England to face Tom Brady. Can Geno Smith do it again? No. I'm taking the New England Patriots to beat the Jets handily.
Yeah,
handily.
Jets are going to get stomped out
with
by
no
New England.
weapons.
As Hernandez would say, the Patriots are going to murder the Jets.
They put Gimp at wide receiver, and he scores 3 touchdowns, and the Jets lose the game handily. The New England Patriots win.
He may possibly be Danny Woodhead. We're not sure.
He may be, actually. That's a good point. All right, let's head on down to KC Arrowhead Stadium. It's a very tough place to play. Andy Reid's home opener.
Fat ass's home opener.
He's got
get that barbecue ready. He's going to go through some
against a team he knows a little bit about, the Dallas Cowboys. And we would get Riley's prediction, but I think he's too busy worrying about what Jax and Clay are doing at this point in the show. So I'm gonna stay true to my NFC East champs, Dallas Cowboys.
Not a chance in hell. I'm going Kansas City and fat ass.
You know who else has got a prediction on this game? The casual fan. Let's
started out 0-1, trying to get back on track here.
Yeah, I don't know if he gets what the NFL is all about, but I love his insight. So let's see what he's got.
Hello, friends. The Casual Fan Reporter here. We're ready to bring you another in-depth breakdown from the Week 2 schedule of the NFL. As always, the only place to get analysis from me, the Casual Fan Reporter, is right here on the Displaced DieHards podcast, available at iTunes and Stitcher Radio. Now, obviously, I think before I dive into this week's tough call matchup, I should address my pick from the Week 1 action. Holy jeez, who would have known that a bunch of brown bears from Chicago would rise to the challenge from an onslaught of Bengal tigers from Cincinnati? If only those bear cubs that battle over at Wrigley Field could show as much ferocity and desire to kill instead of just being killed on a daily basis, maybe they would be more successful instead of always playing second fiddle to a bunch of Cardinals. Ha! However, needless to say, I'm very upset that my initial pick didn't go according to plan, but there are still plenty of chances for me to get my picks back on track, considering all the intense battles scheduled over the course of the next 15 weeks. For example, my choice for Week's 2 tough call matchup is between the Dallas Cowboys and the Kansas City Chiefs. Ah, yes. Nothing like a good old-fashioned mano-a-mano battle between two bitter Old West rivals, whose history has spawned bedtime stories to light the twinkle in the eyes of millions of young buckaroos all over this great country. Although, I must say, I wasn't aware of any cowboys recently invading from the Lone Star State to incite land battles in Kansas City with the local Indian population. And now that I think about it, I'm pretty sure that not just the chiefs of these tribes would do all the fighting. I'm quite positive there would be Indian warriors under the chief's command fighting the good battle against the swaggering assholes from the south. But if I had to pick which side of this battle I think will prevail, I'm going to have to give my pick to the cowboys from Dallas. Let's face it, history hasn't been too kind to the Indians in this country. First, a bunch of pilgrims come over from England, bringing plague rats and ugly clothing, and what do? They make the natives cook a big-ass meal for them. Rude. Then, over time, we come in like the big brother of the world and start taking over their land like it was ours to begin with anyway. Then, to top it all off, we leave no opportunities for these fine people to advance in our society, other than a bunch of cheap-ass vacation getaways where you live the Old West, or perhaps a shabby damn casino in the middle of Tulsa. Who the hell wants to gamble in Tulsa? I mean, really. As much as I don't want to pick the Cowboys to win this fight, and as much as I feel like the Chiefs could possibly rise up and make a good quality run at defending their land in Kansas City, you know the Cowboys will win in the end because the government will just step in and take their land away anyway. Win or lose. That is just how our society began, and I can tell you, my friends, that is where we still are today. Anyway, this is the Casual Fan Reporter for the Displaced DieHards podcast saying, keep listening, keep watching, and above all else, keep the deed to your land in a safe deposit box if you're a Native American. Later. I wonder where the word Navajo came from anyway. I think it was a pilgrim word for a skank Indian woman. I don't know.
Well, that's going to about wrap up week number 8 of the Displaced DieHards. Going to remind you to check us out on television every week, Saturday, 10 p.m. Central Standard Time in Owensboro on Time Warner Cable subscribers, channel 72.
Yeah, and for those of you who are watching the show on Time Warner at this time, you can go to www.displaceddiehards.com. Check out our Fantasy Starts and Sits segment, which is special for the podcast subscribers. Just go ahead and download it.
Got to check that out. It's a podcast exclusive. Got to go download the podcast to hear our fantasy sit start, which if you listened last week, you had some fantasy winners. But
we did hit the nail on the head.
You can also check it out on our YouTube channel, YouTube.com/Displaced DieHards. Follow us on Twitter at DieHards Podcast. Listen to us on Stitcher Radio and iTunes, and download the podcast, of course, at DisplacedDieHards.com.
That's right. That's going to about do it for episode number 8. Until next week, yippee-ki-yay.
Yippee-ki-yay.